under the twin suns of Elter Prime. The grand basilica of the Holy Empire shimmered like a blade drawn under heaven's light. Inside, voices rose and chanted fury. The Council of Sanctity had convened, and before them hovered images of a world so violent, so godless, they dared not utter its name without a ritual cleansing. Terra. To the Empire, faith was law, and deviation was heresy. The unblinking emissaries sent from Terra wore no symbols of worship, carried no scripture, and spoke of peace as though it were universal truth. Their offer had been plain: cultural exchange, trade, mutual learning. But what the Synod saw was sorcery dressed in civility. The humans had openly admitted to AI symbiosis. They referenced genetic reprogramming. They claimed their soldiers could override pain, restructure bone, and regulate fear like a machine does heat. Such admissions weren't seen as marvels. They were declarations of defiance against divinity. High Exarch Delker declared it blasphemy. "We are ordained to cleanse deviation, not embrace it," he intoned. "The false ones must burn." The vote was not close. 1,000 voices, one command: holy war. The message sent to Terra was ceremonial, dressed in ecclesiastical pomp and veiled condemnation. It spoke of redemption through fire, purification through obliteration. The Terran response was 10 syllables long. Acknowledged, we will respond in kind. In Imperial archives, that moment would later be footnoted as the beginning of something unthinkable, not because the war began, but because of the calm with which the humans received it. Empires expected rebellion or pleas. Terra gave neither. Empire fleets mobilized swiftly. Within standard weeks, war hymns echoed across staging worlds. Carriers moved toward the stars surrounding Sol. Recon units passed through minor outposts, and Imperial tacticians braced for orbital dogfights. They found instead silence. Human colonies were quiet, empty. Some had warning signs left behind in multiple alien tongues. Do not follow. Do not provoke. We are not what you think. Near the mining moon of Lyra, for the first conflict occurred. The Empire dropped a strike company onto a terraformed colony suspected of harboring Terran assets. They expected light resistance. What they encountered was absence, until movement in the mist began to reduce squads by the minute. Video feeds showed nothing but static. One final transmission was recovered before blackout. An Imperial soldier, wide-eyed, whispering, "It's not war. It's a hunt." No diplomatic protests came. No ultimatums. Just one confirmed pattern. The Terran colonies weren't defending. They were waiting, luring, shaping. In Earth's orbit, the Terran Defense Accord sat in silence. 12 representatives. 12 nations long united under the banner of existential pragmatism. The projection of the Empire's war proclamation hovered in the chamber. No debates followed. A signal was given. Secure channels opened to the black archives beneath the Antarctic ice fields. Their Project Cerberus was reactivated. Files unlocked slowly, each entry sealed with biosignature encryption. The contents were a list of names, not machines, not weapons. People, modified, broken, rebuilt. Volunteers, criminals, saints, all chosen for one characteristic. They did not ask why. They asked how hard to hit. The reactivation of these assets did not involve fanfare. No one cheered. No one saluted. Humanity did not celebrate its monsters. It simply released them. The Empire celebrated early victories. Dozens of outposts burned. Colonies were seized and repurposed. Broadcasts showed images of captured humans kneeling. These humans did not cry. They did not beg. One even laughed. Then things changed. At 0430 Standard Time on Imperial Fortress World Corthax, communication ceased. The last image received was a sky turning black. Not from clouds, but from something alive. Swarms of something, nanoconstructs perhaps, or autonomous drones, ripped through planetary defenses like razors through cloth. Imperial defenders screamed in channels. No Terran fleet was detected, and yet the planet fell in minutes. Another incident followed on Eurones Prime. An elite detachment of Imperial paladins disappeared into a human research station. One by one, their life signs vanished. The station's power level spiked unnaturally. A single human voice broke into Imperial networks with surgical clarity. "Thank you for your offering. We will use them well." Analysts studied the voice. It wasn't modulated. It was augmented, deliberately laced with frequencies proven to cause unease in most sentient species. The voice had been engineered as a psychological scalpel. It worked. The Empire responded with escalation. Flagships, orbital siege platforms, and command dreadnoughts were dispatched. A show of force was deemed necessary. One of these fleets, the Ninth Sanctified Armada, intercepted what appeared to be a human cargo vessel near the Dead Scar Nebula. They disabled it and boarded. Inside were no crew, only black storage pods filled with organosynthetic tissues, living components awaiting integration. The pods were labeled Phase 2 Arrival. Back at the Imperial capital, voices of doubt began to rise. Priests burned sacred oils more frequently. Chants increased in volume and desperation. The word monster appeared in soldier reports, and not just once. Entire communication logs repeated it like a drumbeat. These weren't human soldiers. They were something else, something designed. On Ralvin Thresh, a governor received a visit. The door to his sanctum opened to reveal what appeared to be a Terran child, except it was a fabrication. Too perfect. Its eyes didn't blink. Its voice was soft, too soft. It asked one question: how do you repent for genocide? Then the building collapsed inward, consuming him and 40 officials in gravitational rupture. No ship was seen arriving or leaving. Imperial Command ordered the shutdown of all psychic scanning programs. Human counterinfiltration agents were feeding false visions into prophetic minds. Entire psionic divisions were reportedly driven mad by manufactured thoughts. Humans had found ways to poison perception itself. Word spread a particular entity, a human unit designated Voidborn. It didn't speak. It didn't move with propulsion. It simply appeared at the edge of systems, floating toward targets, surrounded by a field that muted all sensors. It destroyed capital ships without firing. Analysis showed that the destruction began from the inside. Implosions, spontaneous matter disassembly. Theories range from gravitational disruption to quantum resonance. The Empire found no answer. Imperial High Command initiated Operation Celestial Spear with its remaining honor fleets. The goal was to encircle the Sol system from 3 vectors and apply coordinated pressure to force a Terran surrender. 300 ships moved in formation, supported by over 50 capital carriers, relic-class war titans, and over 2 million personnel. Proclamations of divine victory were broadcast through every fleet channel. The words were clear: strike fast, strike hard, and purify the system. The attack never reached Earth. Every fleet vanished within minutes of entering the Oort perimeter. Not destroyed. Vanished. Final telemetry showed sudden non-Euclidean distortions, impossible physics, light refraction inside vacuum, internal hull reversals. Then silence. Across 12 systems, similar anomalies were reported. Human warcraft began appearing without warp signatures. They did not emerge from hyperspace. They phased in silently, undetected by early warning systems, without ion trails. Human vessels bore no identifiable registration, only designations like Wrath, Seven, or Reckoning. 23 etched into their hulls. These ships didn't fire conventional weapons. They used gravity compression warheads, singularity flares, and biosonic disruptors that shattered bones without breaking skin. Standard energy shields offered no protection. The Empire's best engineers had no countermeasure. Tactical computers logged them as non-computable threats. One vessel, the Apex Leviathan, suffered hull fragmentation at a molecular level after a Terran ship passed within 100 kilometers without firing a single shot. Crew survivors, only 2, spoke of voices from the walls and corridors that folded back on themselves. One was institutionalized after attempting to scratch coordinates into his own bones. Those coordinates, when decrypted, pointed to a former Earth colony destroyed 2 centuries earlier. A tomb world, empty. Not even microbes remained. The Holy Order of Enlightened Judgment declared the use of Terran warfare to be the manifestation of demonic interference. A galactic sermon was ordered. Broadcast declared Earth condemned by the gods. Within the week, half the transmission towers failed, not from sabotage, but from unexplained entropy acceleration. The metal aged, wires decayed. Data rot occurred simultaneously across different sectors. No biological or digital virus was found. It was as if reality itself no longer favored them. The first captured Terran unit was not human. It was labeled as Mark for a reclaimer construct. Biological components were fused into hardened alloy with regenerating blood substitutes. The Empire's xenobiologists confirmed the brain tissue was once human, but neural architecture had been overlaid with synthetic recursion networks. It was alive. It was sentient. It was not sane. During deconstruction, it laughed and broadcast a single phrase in 62 alien languages. They made us what you feared. The second capture was worse. A human female, unaugmented by visible implants, held in a psi cage. Interrogators questioned her for hours. She remained calm, smiled, told them stories of Earth's history, of wars, extinctions, rebuilding. When one interrogator mocked humanity's violent past, she replied, "Yes, and yet we survived it all. Ask yourselves why." Moments later, her vitals ceased. No wound, no poison. Her brain simply shut down. The cage's sensors logged the data burst upon her death. A complex signal in neural code. It wasn't a message. It was an instruction set. 3 hours later, the entire interrogation facility turned on itself. Lights dimmed. Defense turrets activated autonomously. The staff were shredded before reinforcements arrived. The woman's body vanished. The Empire now refers to that event as Protocol Zero. Panic led to theological revisionism. The Church of Stellar Ascendance revised its doctrine, labeling Terrans as harbingers rather than heretics. Some factions within the Empire suggested surrender or a diplomatic attempt. But it was too late. The monsters had already arrived. On Zentra 4, a superfortress world fortified over 4 millennia, human entities bypassed planetary shields by subverting the orbital satellites into emitters. Instead of destroying the shield, they redirected it inward, melting Zentra's surface in 10 minutes. No debris was ejected. The planet quieted into glass. Surveillance drones recorded a single phrase carved into the equator. Mistake number 1. The Terran Chimera units, organically enhanced infantry bred for asymmetric warfare, began deploying through hijacked Empire wormholes. These soldiers were not masses of numbers. They were scalpel precise. Each operated solo. Each bore memories of hundreds of lifetimes through mnemonic implants. Some whispered commands before killing. Some recited old Earth poetry while walking through gunfire. One was reported to have walked calmly through 3 regiments while singing a lullaby in a language long extinct. The survivors refused to repeat what they heard. One soldier burned out his own auditory nerves to silence the memory. Infiltration of Imperial AI systems became standard. Terran digital organisms, self-evolving, context-sensitive, undetectable, assumed control of everything from comms to life support. Once infected, systems did not crash. They continued functioning with subtle variations. Orders reversed themselves. Medical bays administered neurotoxins as antibiotics. Starships adjusted courses slightly, imperceptibly, until crashing into gravity wells. Sabotage through misdirection. Death through faith in infrastructure. Empire leaders fell into silence. No announcements were made. No new declarations of war. There was only retreat, retraction, and the activation of forbidden weapons. The holy engines of Orvos, dormant since the cataclysmic schism, were unleashed dark matter fission bombs, psychic storm generators, singularity missiles. They were deployed against suspected Terran strongholds. Entire systems collapsed into temporal rifts. It is believed that the death toll reached 9 billion. No human ships were confirmed present in any of the affected systems. Terran response came not in kind, but in consequence. At the galactic core, the entire Kyrax command assembly vanished. Not destroyed. Not killed. Vanished. In their place, a hollow transmission pulsed outward. a sequence of emotional waveforms encoded with the final dreams of every child who died during the Empire's early offensives. No sound, just the experience of dying alone, scared, unheard. It swept through millions. Suicide rates doubled. Soldiers deserted en masse. Chaplains wept openly. In response, the Empire called upon its final measure, the Astral Warden, an ancient biological machine constructed during the Lost Era. Part god, part engine, it was believed to be undefeatable. It was deployed near the Sagittarius fragment, where a human fleet had been spotted. Within 6 hours, contact was lost. Recovery drones found the Warden's pieces orbiting the remains of a Terran ship with hull markings indicating it had been retired from service 2 centuries ago. The old ship's log showed one line, test complete. Threat index, insufficient. The remnants of the Empire gathered on Halorex, a once thriving world now reduced to a command husk. What remained of its leadership, frayed, fractured, and terrified, assembled to plan a final stand. Defensive grids were reconfigured, automated mines redeployed, and conscripts raised from every habitable moon. It was a war council by name only. There was no strategy, only hope that defiance might delay the inevitable. They no longer aimed to win. They merely hoped to survive long enough for the monsters to notice them as something more than background noise. Scouts dispatched to track Terran forces reported inconsistencies. Entire sectors once deemed active war zones now appeared lifeless. Not destroyed, emptied. No heat signatures, no ships, no debris. The void itself seemed denser, heavier. Signals bounced off nothing, and light bent where it shouldn't. Some systems registered slight gravitational tremors, as if something immense had passed through space without ever being seen. None returned with evidence of fleets, only silence, as if the war had burned itself out in reverse. And then came the Reckoning Protocol, an automated Terran signal transmitted across hundreds of captured Empire communication satellites. It contained no words, only timestamps. Each one aligned perfectly with the destruction of a major Imperial world or facility from the past 6 months. Each event had occurred with surgical precision, 0 civilian targets, no collateral. Each was carried out by forces no longer traceable by any known pattern. The timestamps were a message. Everything had been calculated. There were no accidents, no mercy, no impulse, only consequence. Empire morale collapsed. Military governors renounced rank. Priests committed themselves to silence. Planetary officials refused to accept refugees, fearing attention. Billions now understood they weren't just losing a war. They had invited extermination from something that saw their spiritual fervor as mere noise in the data stream. The fear was no longer death. It was erasure. And still, Earth said nothing. Among the classified archives of the Holy Order, a lost file was rediscovered, buried under layers of obsolete encryption. It predated the war by decades. It had been intercepted during first contact, never translated, never studied, once decoded. It revealed a simple transmission from a human AI to an exploratory vessel lost before contact was fully established. Do not provoke. We are optimized for survival. You're optimized for faith. We do not worship. We calculate. The file had been dismissed as irrelevant. Now it was scripture. Meanwhile, a new figure emerged in hushed reports across fringe systems. An entity referred to as a sentinel, a human encased in unknown alloy, moving independently across systems marked for dissolution. Eyewitnesses, few as they were, described it as both ancient and futuristic. It spoke in no known language, yet its meaning was always understood. In one report, a captain who tried to speak was rendered mute, not physically. He simply could no longer remember how. The Sentinel passed through capital-class defense systems without resistance, its presence triggering system-wide shutdowns without firing a single shot. Its path never deviated, never rushed, never explained. The Empire's final bastion, Ubrax's Gate, activated its Star Forge, a weapon capable of igniting a sun in defense. The human fleet arrived 36 hours before ignition. They did not attack. They surrounded the system, projected null signal fields, and waited. Within minutes, Ubrax's Gate lost connection to every satellite, every drone, and every pulse beacon. Then they began receiving their own internal data back. Every private call, every closed-door meeting, every classified order, looped, stitched together into a single horrific narrative. Their own sins, systematized and broadcast across every screen, every helmet, every implant. They didn't just lose their power. They lost the ability to lie to themselves. The Starforge shut down. No attack followed. The Terran fleet vanished again, leaving only a final message etched into the side of the nearest moon in reflective crystal. Truth is enough. The Empire fell within weeks, not through force, but through psychological entropy. Faith dissolved under proof. Prophets stopped speaking. Fleet captains scuttled their own vessels to avoid phantom encounters. The Holy Church attempted a final rally, but their sermons were answered by repurposed Empire drones projecting human war hymns, low-frequency compositions designed to induce despair in higher cognitive species. It worked. Entire populations surrendered without seeing a single human form. No demands ever came from Earth. No territorial claims. No new governance. Nothing. Only the collapse of a once galactic force under the weight of its own illusions. In isolated clusters, rumors of human presence continued. A derelict research vessel reported entering a system marked Terran Black. Automated systems failed immediately. Hulls began peeling. One survivor recorded seeing figures, unarmored, unarmed, standing in open vacuum. They moved like they belonged there. They looked directly at the ship and disappeared. When the ship limped home, it found its registry had been deactivated for 127 years. No one remembered sending it out. Another report came from deep within the Kellan fold, where a civilian craft stumbled into a gravity anomaly. For 5 minutes, all passengers experienced synchronized hallucinations, visions of Earth, its history, its violence, its cold beauty. Upon recovery, all passengers emerged fluent in an extinct Terran dialect known only from pre-warp transmissions. None knew why. On the fringes of what remained of galactic civilization, a new council formed, not of power but of avoidance. Former Empire world neutral states and minor civilizations came together in silent agreement. No missions to Sol, no probes, no signals, no questions. The system was marked in every navigational database as forbidden black. No enforcement was required. The memory was enough. Centuries passed. New generations grew. Stories emerged in whispers of the old war, the falling of light, the days of silence. No records remained, only fragments. Children asked about the humans and were told cautionary tales. Never reach for fire you do not understand. Never provoke silence. Never awaken monsters who sleep beneath the stars. But even amidst decay, curiosity returns. In time, a deep research probe was commissioned in secret. Small, fast, quiet. No weapons. Its mission was to observe the Terran system and return with clarity. It reached Pluto's orbit and began transmitting. For a time, everything remained quiet. Then the feed ended, not with static or explosion, just a single frame. A human stood on what should have been an abandoned moon, looking directly at the camera. No suit, no breath, no movement. Behind him, the stars twisted. The probe never returned. The council that had ordered the mission disbanded quietly. Every file was erased. Every scientist reassigned. It was understood, not officially, not publicly, but deeply instinctively. You do not knock on the door of a house that remembers war, and Earth never speaks unless it intends to act. The galaxy adjusted. New empires rose, but none with central doctrine, none with holy wars, none with crusades.